first thing is that Jesus' baptism is accompanied by the gift of the Spirit, by a voice from heaven claiming him as God's beloved Son, a Son with whom God is well pleased. Whatever else Jesus' baptism may mean, it is the place where he learns without a shadow of a doubt who he is, and maybe more importantly, whose he is. At his baptism, Jesus is given the gifts of identity and affirmation, which leads to the second really important thing we get out of Matthew's gospel. Jesus' baptism precedes the commencement of his public ministry. Immediately following his baptism, Jesus is tempted in the wilderness. And only after that 40 days of temptation does he begin to call followers to him. And I think the theme here is clear, and that's that the gift of identity precedes mission. And we can go a little bit further even and say that only by having a clear sense of God's affirmation and identity can Jesus take on the enormous mission in front of him. And I think this becomes clear when you see that the tempter's point of attack is precisely at the question of identity. He asks Jesus, he says to Jesus, if you are the Son of God. Not that you are the Son of God, if you are the Son of God. Satan calls into question Jesus' relationship with the Father because he knows that Jesus, just as Adam and Eve before him, is vulnerable to temptation precisely to the degree that he is insecure about his identity and his relationship with his Father. And I think this is where Jesus' baptism intercepts with our own stories. In John 10:10, Jesus says, I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. And my argument to you this evening is that we can only live fully into that abundance of life to the degree that we hear and believe the good news that we too, just like Jesus before us, are beloved children of God. And just like Jesus in baptism, we discover who we are by hearing definitively whose we are. Baptism is nothing less than the promise that we are God's beloved child. It's nothing less than the promise that no matter where we go, God will go with us. It's nothing less than the promise that no matter what we may do, God is for us and will not abandon us. In baptism, we are marked with the cross of Christ, blessed with the promise of God's Spirit, and given a name, and that name is beloved child of God. And I firmly believe that the greatest trap in our life is not success, it's not popularity, and it's not power. All of those things certainly present great temptation, but their seductive quality comes from the way that they're part of the much larger temptation of self-rejection. Because when we believe the voices that call us worthless and unlovable, then success and popularity and power are easily seen as attractive solutions. As soon as I am criticized, as soon as I am rejected, as soon as I am left alone or abandoned, I find myself thinking, well, that just proves once again that I really am nobody. My dark side says I really am no good. I deserve to be pushed aside, forgotten, rejected, and abandoned. Self-rejection is the greatest enemy of spiritual growth because it contradicts that sacred voice at our baptism that calls us the beloved. And being the beloved constitutes nothing less than the core truth of our existence. So towards that end, family, I'm going to ask you to do something that may have a little short-term pain. But I promise you that pain will be short term. I want you to take a moment to remember some of the more difficult names that you have been called during your lives. The names that no matter how long ago they were uttered endure in your memories, that dog you through the day and haunt you at night. And you know the names that I'm talking about. You may have heard them from your siblings or on the playground. You may have heard them in a particularly weak moment from your spouse. I guess if we're going to be completely honest, it's likely that the most damaging and hurtful of those names are the ones that you've called yourself. I want you to recall those names for one painful moment. Do you hear them? Dummy, weakling, fatso, ugly, worthless, crazy. Can you feel the hurt that they continue to cause? Think about those names. Now, family, I need you to listen to me more carefully than you've ever listened to me before. I need you to hear me more clearly than you have ever heard me before. Because I need you to hear God Himself saying to you right now, that is not your name. None of those are your name. Your name is beloved child of God. I have claimed you and you are mine, and with you I am well pleased. Family, the reason it's so important that we continually try to love the Lord with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength by loving our neighbors and ourselves is that by doing so, we have the best opportunity to help our neighbors know that their name is also beloved child of God. And it is an opportunity to remind ourselves that that is our very same name. Let me say it one more time. You are God's beloved child, and He is well pleased with you. That's who you are. That's whose you are. That is the core truth of your identity, beloved. That's who you honestly are. And if you would simply begin to believe that, you can start to live into the mission that you were created for. The mission that has been prepared for you to step into since the very beginning of time. And I just want to say that if any of you are not baptized, and if you want to know that feeling and you want to know that certainty about who you are and whose you are, be baptized. Be baptized. Come forward right now and be baptized. Or talk to me after church and make arrangements to be baptized. It's important. It's who we are. Amen.